There are a lot of red herrings in episode 7 that a lot of the OG fans that played the games and read the novels are falling for, and it's just mind-blowing. Hi, I'm Will Forge. I really want to talk about this because I've seen people talk about this episode a lot. They're referring to the Beast. I'm not going to go into detail on what the Beast is because I think these red herrings are actually making people think that the Beast is being introduced here when it's actually still just being foreshadowed. They think that it's been moved where the Beast comes into the story, and those fans that have not played the games and read the novels are going to end up, if I talk about it now, if I go into detail of what the Beast is, it'll spoil it for all of those new fans, and I do not want to do that for those new fans. So let's just go in. I'm going to tell you why people are getting tricked, what it actually means, and what's actually happening in this episode. So whenever people get tricked is mainly in that one scene with the lab, the Forerunner lab. Whenever Halsey and Kwan Ha and Miranda go in there, people are getting tricked there because they think that this is involving the Beast when it's not. They walk into the lab and there are these things that look like test tubes. And in test tubes, you'd have some kind of possibly a bacteria that would be being experimented on, or maybe you're doing some kind of DNA stuff, right? But actually, if you do a freeze frame of the scene, whenever they start to crack, the way that they crack is more consistent with a crystal structure. It also seems like they aren't filled with anything. There's nothing inside of these things as test tubes. I don't think they're test tubes. There's some kind of crystalline computer system. It's possible that each crystal is containing data in it, like DNA would, but it's not going to be in the form of actual DNA held inside of a crystal. At least I don't think so. It's going to be more like computer data that are like bits that are little tiny dots inside the crystal that you'd shine light through, and you'd be able to pinpoint where the dot is and use it kind of like a CD that's got thousands of CDs as layers, on top of each other, like a three-dimensional disc, And what that would do is actually be very useful in scientifically experimenting with massive amounts of data. Well, the scientist that's in here is probably the librarian. They say it's a tomb, and then they say, no, it's a lab. And there's some implication that this is actually the library, right? Or a library. Well, whenever they have a library, librarians are the people who run the library. In the original lore, the library that you visit in the Halo games is not where they contain the Beast. That library, which is on a different planet, it's not here, and so I'm going to tell you right now, that's not especially spoiler here. This was a red herring to make you think this is where the Beast was being introduced, but it's not. There are many libraries. Every single life worker uses a library to work with their DNA. A library is not like a place where there's books. It's a place where there is a catalog of genetic traits and DNA of different species. It's almost like a zoo, but rather than having living animals there, you simply have the embodiment of the living animal turned into digital data so that they can experiment with it and make new animals with it. Now, in this case, the life workers on this planet probably were creating the human genome for modern humanity and putting the Gios in there. Now, this is where that other red herring comes in. They have the door, and it means, what was it?
Those symbols. What does it say?
I haven't seen that one before. The central segment is like the ideograph for growth or rebirth, but the symbol at the top usually has negative connotations. Given the positioning, maybe it modifies the other symbol. It could mean anything. Change, division, decay.
On this door, they have these two sigils, and it's beautifully done red herring work because the bottom one is growth or rebirth, right? Which, if you know what the Beast is and what's going on with the Beast, immediately goes, oh, shoot. And then the top one has a negative connotation that then goes down to apply to it, which could mean change, division, or decay. Now, what I thought initially, I was caught by the red herring as well, and I thought this was what this meant. But then I thought, wait, I think that what they really mean is that this room is where you defeat the Beast, because it's about the destruction of the growth, right? Rather than, I can't go into detail on what the Beast is any more than that, or else they'll start spoiling things for newcomers. But yeah, basically, OG fans will know exactly what I'm talking about whenever I say those words just there. In that sequence, they know precisely what I mean. But what inside, they then proceed to get this little device. I thought that was the index, which is an index of DNA of various species throughout, the universe, or throughout the galaxy, that's used in fighting the beast. But what I think it actually means, and this is why it was a red herring, is that it's rebirth, and it is change, division, decay. Think about that. That is not the decay involving the beast. That's the decay of the human species. This is the lab where they de-evolved humanity. See, the Forerunners a long time ago, 100,000 years ago, defeated humanity in battle. And afterward, because they thought that humans were too uppity, because, by the way, there's a whole misunderstanding why there was war with humanity in the first place, and it involves the beast. But I'm not going to go into detail with that. But the point is that they then, after defeating them, thought the humanity can't continue to exist. They're too powerful and too warmongering and too oppositional to us, so we have to destroy them. But the librarian said, the life workers and the librarian who leads them all, she said, no, give them to me. I'm going to de-evolve them, bring them back down to their a caveman-like level. I'm going to bring them there, and then I'm going to deposit them back on their homeworld and let them re-evolve, and perhaps as they re-evolve, they'll discover peace instead. And that was her way of keeping us from being going extinct, from being completely eradicated. So what this lab is where that took place. This is the rebirth, is humanity's rebirth. The change, division, decay is the decay of our evolution, the bringing us back down. Notice whenever the crystals crack, there's nothing inside the crystals. Like I said, they don't look like test tubes whenever you get up close. They look like crystals. They're not containing anything like the beast, like maybe its DNA or anything like that. Instead, the thing there's nothing breaking out. What happens is a boom outside the room. And that boom ripple effects into the room and causes all of them to crack. Nothing gets out. Nothing attacks them. There's no immediate release. And then they leave, the door closes, the bridge turns off, they get back through the other door, it closes. How would the beast even get out at this point, even if they were in the crystals? There's no one to interact with to then escape. Again, can't go into detail. The point is, this is not the unleashing of the beast. If it was, this whole scene would happen very differently. I also want to bring something up here and explain these doors and bridge and door again. If you pay attention to the scene very closely, the boom happens, the crystals crack, right? Well, in the original lore, on Onyx, the entire planet is a Forerunner structure that has, dirt and plants growing on the outside as an additional crust layer on the planet. You see that in the scene. They walk out onto that bridge and they look down, there's a whole Forerunner city underneath, as if the entire planet is a super cave, right? It's like some superstructure with a layer on top, like a roof that looks like a natural planet. Well, that's exactly what it is, and in the original lore, it even transforms and unleashes a bunch of sentinels, and stuff happens. It's very badass scene, and if this happens here, that might be what the boom was. If that was the initial part where the reactor core of the planet was somehow activating, and that's why all the lights started turning on down in the city, then that would be the boom that occurred. It rippled through the entire planet and caused a bit of seismic activity and cracked those crystals. Now, whenever they leave, though, think about it. Your whole planet's about to transform. This doorway that opens up to just empty space might be about to be exposed to the vacuum of space as it transforms. So the door begins to close to seal off everything inside, and possibly with additional booms, it might destroy more of the science equipment that's inside there, maybe whole entire computer systems. So they need to close it to safeguard what's inside that room from the planet transforming. So the door starts to close and they go, oh no, we got to get out of here. They go to leave, but I want you to notice something in this scene. Kwan Ha steps on the bridge and then it sort of flickers, but it stays solid. Kwan Ha walks all the way across the bridge and then it starts to disappear. That's because she is the chosen one. It only activated in the first place so that she could cross, and now that she's gone back, it has deactivated. The other two, it's not like it was going to deactivate for them. It probably was going to stay active right up until Kwan Ha left the room. It doesn't care about the other two, so it starts to deactivate anyway, forcing them back across the bridge. But also notice it slows down right before, Halsey and her daughter Miranda get in actual danger, and it doesn't fully disappear until they jump off of it onto the platform in a very Indiana Jones-like style. But the funny thing about this is actually, I think the bridge was like, you're not authorized to be here, so I'm going to disappear and force you off, but I'm not actually going to drop you to your death. That's not my intent. It was a computer system going, I'm going to wait until you're off of it to disappear. As soon as they jump off, it disappears. I don't think they were actually in any danger. They just thought they were. They perceived it as danger and ran as fast as they could. And I honestly think the computer system was just waiting until they got off. It wasn't going to disappear if they just stood there and stared at the city, which is actually hilarious to me. It's also something that Halsey might have been familiar with because she's dealt with Forerunner, artifacts in the past, but she may not have been fully familiar with it or 100% convinced she wasn't about to die. So she was like, no, I'm getting off. I'm getting off like Miranda says. So she does actually get off. But anyway, after that, the door there starts to close as if to say, hey guys, you need to get through here. And we are sealing this off because, once again, this area we get exposed to the vacuum of space as well. Maybe they don't want to do that. So then they go through the door and it closes behind them. It's really actually a funny scene, the way that it goes out, the way it pans out. And I honestly think that all of that danger was like sort of like a red herring. This planet wasn't going to kill them. But I do think that also that room, remember the room that led to all of this, that led to the lab, the original like stone structure room, it actually had some, human DNA and Forerunner DNA in it. And the really interesting thing there is that was a clue that this lab was where they de-evolved humanity. But they actually don't know what human DNA versus Forerunner DNA looks like. They don't know what Forerunner DNA looks like. So whenever they thought they found Forerunner DNA in the other device, it's possible that was actually early human DNA. That was the ancients' DNA, or the ancestors, I mean. The ancestors is what those ancient humans are called before they got de-evolved. Well, if that was actually modern human and like modern caveman human and ancestor DNA, then that would mean that this is where this temple sort of structure was saying, this is where we made them this, and this is why we de-evolved them, this is where it is, and these are the reclaimers, right? This sort of building is dedicated to the reclaimers in a way. And if that's the case, then that would explain all of that room, everything that happens in there, telling them the story of what happened to the Forerunners, including their history with the beasts, as Kwan Ha notices in the hologram. This is supposed to be where humanity is received as reclaimers and taught about what happened to them, what happened in the past to the Forerunners, and everything. And instead, they're misinterpreting everything, and it's delivered to us as viewers, especially the OG fans who know more details and start thinking these words mean different things, as red herring after red herring after red herring. And honestly, it's hilarious and I love it. It's good writing. It's funny. They weren't like flipping us off as OG fans. They were just using our knowledge against us to create this effect of mystery that now we don't know what they were actually talking about, what it was actually happening. The best kind of mystery they can create in a universe that we already know everything about, they did that here using red herrings to throw us off about what's happening. And I think that's fantastic. Very good writing. Later on in the episode, what's her name? Halsey and Miranda are in the lab and they're messing with that little device. Like I said before, I thought that was the index. I don't think it is necessarily anymore. It could be. It could still be. A lot of other people have seen theorized that it might contain the precursor dust. Not going to go into detail on what that is because that would spoil a lot of the of stuff involving the beast and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not going to go into detail what that is, but I have seen people theorize that. I've also seen people theorize that the little smoke that comes out is flood, and I'm not going to go into detail about that. But basically, I don't think it's any of those. I'm still not 100% certain what it is. I think it may be some kind of device that is supposed to, like, maybe awaken your Gias, like the Chosen One. Like, everyone keeps on awakening their Gias, like I've said in the past, like Kwan Ha did, and now they're able to act like a Chosen One. They can activate the Forerunner structures. They are now a Reclaimer. Chosen One and Reclaimer are basically synonymous in this Silver timeline, and they probably didn't use Reclaimer because it like Chosen One feels more like what the Covenant would call it, and that's where that term came from in this series. Reclaimer would be what the Forerunners would call it, like, 343 Guilty Spark. But like what we're going into here, I think, is that we're actually being exposed to basically the same concept twice, but in a different context. And Anyway, the point is that I don't know exactly what that device is. It still could be the Index, in my opinion, but I think that it's possible it's related to the Gios. It's possible it's related to returning humanity back to the ancestors, or like their genetic trait. It's also possible that it's actually some kind of like Forerunner AI chip kind of thing. Like maybe whenever they open that, the librarian will appear and actually talk to Miranda in some way. But I think that, see, Miranda herself clearly is not a chosen one. She can't activate any of these artifacts in this room, and then on in the next room, and the bridge started disappearing whenever she and Halsey were on it. So I do think that neither Halsey nor Miranda is currently a chosen one, but if this device can make someone a chosen one, in the original stories, she is a reclaimer. She actually is used frequently and can use their devices, the Forerunner devices, on her own. So there's a really strong chance that this device could do that. It's also possible it could be related to the composer. I won't go into more detail about that for risk of spoiling it for new fans of the TV show. But OG fans will know what it is. It might not be the composer, but be related to it in some manner. It also could just be a map. You know what I mean? Like that device could just open up and show a map of where maybe all of the Halos are. Who knows? We don't know yet, but I do think it's something other than what people are thinking it is. Halsey then proceeds to disappear. Notice here, it says that there's someone in Sector 70 or something like that, and it's possible unauthorized personnel. Some people are thinking it has to do with the Beast. I won't go into detail on what that is. I originally theorized that maybe it was Sentinels coming out of the planet because I noticed the boom and I thought the planet was transforming and the Sentinels would emerge, but I don't think that it's necessarily either of those. I don't think it is at all. I think it might have been potentially one of the three. It's either Kwan Ha, who ran off and we don't know where she went to. It's Soren and or his wife and child were the people who they took in, and then were like, oh, who are these people? Possible, unauthorized personnel. Or it could be Master Chief, because he was now wearing his armor. He was walking through the building. Anyone who looked at him was like in awe and going, oh my God, he's still alive. And maybe those people were also looking at him and going, oh my God, whoa, this is possible, unauthorized personnel. I'm not sure if he's allowed to be here. I thought I heard that he wasn't supposed to be here or doing any of this stuff, So then they were radioing and talking over the intercom, warning, Polanski and Ackerson that this was going on before he left. If Halsey then heard that and left, this is my actual thinking. It could be Soren, it could be Kwan Ha, but I think it's Master Chief. I think that's all it was actually leading toward. And I think this is my reasoning why. Perez went on her mission. It is implied that Perez's coin, she gave Master Chief back his coin on that dashboard. That is possible of what happened, but it's also possible she wanted to keep her luck that he gave her to keep her alive. Or she gave it back to him to keep him alive on his mission. There's no telling. But I do think that Perez thinks that the luck is coming from him, not from the coin. So I don't think that she would give him back the coin necessarily in that way. It would be like saying that I do think it's in the coin. You know what I mean? So I think instead, that's a message from Halsey. I think Halsey heard that Master Chief was in Sector 70. She left the room, went straight to the hangar bay because she knew where Master Chief was going at that point. She knows this base. She trained the Spartans here. She knows every sector. She knows exactly where it is. And she goes straight to the dropships because she knows that Master Chief was near there. He was going toward the Condors. So she goes to the Condor. She leaves a coin on the dashboard, maybe to tell Master Chief whenever he gets to the hangar bay, this is the one I'm in. I'm actually hidden in the cargo bay or something like that, the cargo compartment. And then as soon as he leaves, he picks it up. He doesn't pick it up and then think about Perez. Go back and watch the scene. This is the reason why I think all of this, that Halsey might be in the hangar in there, and she's the one who gave him the coin just there. Because she gave him the coin initially, so her giving him another coin would also be a message from Halsey. Here's why. He picks up the coin, and then he glances to the side, as if he's expecting someone to be in the dropship with him. And then every shot after that cuts off most of the dropship. So he may have even seen her. She may not be in a car. She might have already stepped out, and she might be on the ship, which would also explain. See, there's a preview of the next episode, or of the whole season. It was a preview of the whole season that came out at the very beginning, and Master Chief was talking about this armor means this, this, and this, right? And that scene hasn't happened yet. He said it represents like the people I'm protecting or whatever. That hasn't happened yet, and the question is, who is he going to be talking to whenever he says that? Because right now he's going off on a mission. Is he going to go meet up with Perez and fight alongside them? Is he going to radio back to Polanski and Ackerson and talk about to them, like, you know what I mean? Or is he going to be talking to somebody else? And in this case, it might be Halsey who's on the ship. He might be discussing it with her. Like, she might say something like, oh, I see you're still wearing my armor. And then he might say something, no, this armor represents this armor is this is not what you gave me. It is this, you know what I mean? It is a symbol, and it is a weapon that is used to protect these people, that kind of thing. And if that's the case, then that would be our clue. Like, if that's going to end up happening, it kind of tie back to what I'm saying here. So Halsey might be on the Condor with him and going to the Halo with him, which would also be a departure from original storyline. She wasn't on the Alpha Halo, so that would be kind of interesting to see what goes on because of that. I do still wonder, by the way, about Kessler, Soren's son. I'm thinking that he maybe has some Spartan augmentations himself, like the Spartan 1.1s, and like I talked about in my last video about him being potentially Spartan 2.1 sort of thing, kind of like the Spartan 1.1s from original lore. But more important than that, he's also interacted with Kwan Ha in the story in this season up until now quite frequently. And why would he be doing that? You know what I mean? What's the purpose of him being there while she's in the cave? To give some kind of narrative framing for her to talk to somebody? She's kind of going crazy. She could have been talking to herself very easily, and it would have been just as easy to show her talking about the beast in that cave and the drawings she had done. But instead we had her talking to Soren's son, and Kessler, learning about the beast is one thing, but my real question here that may actually be involved is that what might be happening is that Kessler his third eye has been opened, his Gios has been activated, and now Kessler is becoming a chosen one as well. If this this planet transforms and Soren, his wife, and his son are all on it when it happens, if there is some kind of threat, like the beast comes here or the Covenant come here as some kind of armada attacks the planet, it's possible that some of the Spartan 3s will survive and will actually retreat back to Onyx, and the Covenant will follow them back to Onyx. Some of their ships may follow them before the spike goes off, and so, or maybe some of the wounded ships that didn't actually blow up may make it to Onyx instead. The point is that if there's a big battle on Onyx, probably in season 3, not this season, not in the next episode, I would expect, it might be that what's happening with Soren during season 3 is that they're going to be on the Shield world. Some Spartan survivors will be there. Soren and possibly Kai will represent Kurt and the other characters that were on Onyx during the transformation of the planet, and that invasion will occur, but they would need a reclaimer, they would need a chosen one on the planet to be able to activate Forerunner artifacts to be able to survive and use the teleporters and things like that the Forerunner have on the planet. If they don't have one, then they wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Kwan Ha may still be there, but she seemed to be running off she's like, we aren't supposed to be here, and she left. I think she realized that the beast existed. She said, we aren't supposed to be here, and I think she's leaving to go to the Alpha Halo. I don't think she's going to be on Onyx next season. I think she's leaving the whole planet, that she realized she's supposed to be going where the beast is, which may be on the Alpha Halo here. Not to get too spoilery. But the point is that what goes into all of this is that they're going to need someone there, and if Kessler being introduced to Kwan Ha and interacting with her this whole time, and then Kwan Ha leaving to go to the Alpha Halo, possibly with Miranda Keyes, who will be the Keyes that is on the Halo itself, and then there would be Halsey, who may have left for the Halo. In fact, her going to the Halo potentially in the Condor with Master Chief might be the reason that Miranda goes to the Halo in the first place, not just to go to the Forerunner artifact that somehow survived that giant explosion of the spike, but also because she wants to follow her mother there and find out what she's doing and why she's there. And if that's the case, then we would have our Miranda on the planet, or we might have Halsey on the planet to be the Keyes on that planet, so to speak. But the point is that would leave no one on Onyx to be a reclaimer, which is why I'm thinking it's possible Kessler will be a reclaimer, or Kwan Ha will survive. Will still be on Onyx, and she will further interact with Kessler, and he'll become a reclaimer next season, and then something interesting will happen there. I can see Soren and what was her name? Layra. I keep on calling her Soren's wife because I keep on forgetting her name. I struggle to remember her name for some reason. Soren and Layra might have to then listen to their 6-year-old son and follow what his advice throughout season 3, and that would be pretty interesting, I think, because maybe a childlike Faith would be able to open the Gios more easily and become a reclaimer more easily than a fully grown adult who has, been stuck in their ways or whatever. And so he might end up leading them. He might end up talking to sentinels, maybe speaking to monitors, maybe activating doors and teleporters and saving the day, so to speak, while people like Soren are trying to defend themselves from the Covenant that might be attacking there. Kessler might be defending them and walking them through, the Valley of the Shadow of Death as their shepherd. It would be really interesting, and I hope that's the direction that's going. You can hear my daughter in the other room screaming, I'm sure. But yeah, well, not screaming, she's just shouting, nam, nam. Anyway. The point is that that it would be very interesting to have, this kind of narrative, especially given all of the connections to the biblical, mythology and, Egyptian mythology and Norse mythology and, Buddhism, and even Hindu mythology. There's a lot of connections to all of those. I don't know very many of the connections to Hindu mythology myself, but I do know that there are many, and I'm just not as appraised on those, but I know the other ones that are in Halo, and I'm actually going to create another video about that, and it's going to release right after this one. I've actually recorded it already. I recorded it last night, and so yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to delve into that and explain. It's not super spoilery. It's more like explaining the connections that are so designed to be vague and evocative in the Halo series, kind of like Stargate does with their Egyptian mythology tie-ins and their Norse mythology tie-ins. Halo did the same thing, and you're going to be able to see that the connections are there and that they're vague, but that they're not so detailed that this will really spoil anything for you necessarily. It'll be like light, touches on the outside of what's happening, not delving deeply. But anyway, yeah, I'll catch you next time. Hopefully you'll watch that video as well. It's going to come out probably a week or so after this one, maybe less, maybe 2 weeks. I might wait till the season is over and release it right after that, but we'll see. Finally, my theory on where the beast is going to be unleashed is actually, this might be spoiler, so you can skip the rest of the video, but the Spartan 3s are going to jam that spike into that computer's terminal. It's going to destroy the whole Covenant fleet. Perez is probably going to succeed alongside Kai. They're going to stab that spike into the terminal. Polanski and Ackerson think that whenever this explosion goes off, it's also going to destroy the Halo ring, and it's not going to. It's Forerunner technology. It's just going to tank that like nothing. But it may get some seismic activity, and the seismic activity may unleash the beast. So I'm not going to go into more detail so that if anybody who's new to the show decided to listen to the spoiler, they won't get a major spoiler. It's also a theory and not necessarily true. So in that sense, it could be a spoiler or it could not be. It may not be at all.